today on the Business Spotlight, I've got Kevin Gaffney of DDK Positioning. Welcome, Kevin. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks. Nice to be here.
Yeah, lovely to meet you, even though online.
That's right.
Tell us a bit about DDK Positioning then. Let's just have an introduction to what you do.
Okay. DDK Positioning, a business that started in 2016, based up here in the northeast of Scotland. And ultimately, we provide a precise positioning service for GPS for the sort of marine industry to start with. And then that's going to be expanded into the sort of agriculture and land applications going forward. In summary of what we do, everything we've done to date has been developed in-house. And what we effectively do is remove the errors that you see in your sort of GPS sat navs in your cars and sort of other applications, and enhance that service in real time to give you sort of a 5 centimeter positioning in real time, which then allows so then it allows us sort of industrial applications to use that positioning as their sources of a position for their applications. And not only is it about the position, it's the sort of robustness of that. So it's repeatability, and they can rely on it for their critical operations going forward.
So you have a team of engineers, or?
Yeah, I'd say we started in 2016, where initially was 2 of us, and going forward, and we've grown that team, and we just expanded further. So we're currently a team of 15, and 2 more are joining in the next, one next month and one the month after that. And we've got to recruit further to meet the sort of growth that we have, and primarily based up here in the northeast of Scotland, and also adjusting like everyone else to do the remote and flexible working between the office and home, which has worked quite well for us throughout that period, and going to continue that going forward as well.
So any challenges? I mean, the recruitment and finding talent is an ongoing theme in many of my coaching sessions. So are you facing challenges finding the right people? Yeah,
we are. So if I put a bit of context of where we started from, and then allows to sort of see the scale of what we have ahead of us. So when we'd started from ground zero. So we're talking a blank sheet of paper, and went through the process of building initially we delivered a service on a mobile phone as a testing application, and then captured the sort of attention for some industrial partners. One of those industrial partners is a company called Iridium, and they run and operate their own satellites in space that allows us to deliver our service. And they invested in the company 2 years ago. And so we build into their networks. And then we've also just recently announced an investment by a company called Topcon, again, another global GPS manufacturer of receivers, which we use their receivers in our hardware. And so now we've got the challenges, through that. They've come on board to support us with what we're doing, because primarily we've developed a relationship with a company called Oceaneering, and we've got a sort of long contract with them to develop and deliver the service for them. And to meet that, then it's back to your question, to meet that in terms of recruitment, engineering is thin on the ground up here, and for what we're looking for is quite a specialist. There are other companies that do is similar to what we're doing, and we've got a great base here in northeast of Scotland for engineers, but not necessarily engineers in our domain. So some of it is transferable. And I recently had a conversation with UK Space. They're expanding their portfolio into opening an office, I believe, in Edinburgh next year, because there's a huge challenge to get expertise in our field out with the triangle of Cambridge, Oxford and London. That's a hotspot for that sort of technology there. And unless we open an office down that way, which we're not inclined to do, trying to attract talent is very difficult. And coupled that, so we have that and that's across the board. I think everyone has some challenges for actual technical expertise, especially in growing industries such as the space industry. I think we've also been challenged with that growth of a new company, with the cyclic events of the oil and gas industry. So you'll have the nature where there are potential resourcing and support available. But when it becomes quite tight, then it becomes quite lean on the availability of people. And then you can get into that discussion on salaries, and maybe that doesn't reflect of the industries you're in if you're not in the oil and gas industry per se. So have all those challenges on there. We are looking to expand, and we have done already, is bring some younger and really vibrant sort of people into the team, which have been fantastic. Really love the sort of energy that they bring.
So
And
is that how you've overcome the challenge then? It's like bringing in
both. We've had
junior.
to have we've been very fortunate through the people that we have. We've got a great team, really, and that's allowed us to do what we're doing through the sort of great team we have. And we've had to have the combination. We've been very lucky to build most of those people from our network that we have. So you kind of know or have worked with some of those people as we're growing, and we need that expertise to get us up and running. But now we're looking at adding to that, we're having to look at alternative angles. And you're right. So now it's this sort of younger generation who have expertise and energies and insights that are going to help us grow and keep in the future sustainable.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's a challenge, but everybody, you're up for the challenge, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, we up for the challenge. I mean, we have, the sort of how quickly you grow a team, very much. It's very easy to just throw resources at a team. We've always been pragmatic to introduce people to the team and find out where they sit as we grow and see what resourcing and support they can bring, rather than just throwing numbers. And then we find out where the gaps are as they're bringing, because as people come in, you primarily deliver a lot more than you can and offer a lot more than there's initially during the interview phase, which is always great, especially when we're in a young sort of dynamic team, and then you can sort of adjust around that. But yeah, we it's always about that sort of balance between spending on additional resourcing and also bringing revenue in. When you're a small company, you're trying to manage that going forward. And yeah, you have to make sure it's sustainable without sort of undermining the sort of what you're trying to do.
Sounds like a great place to work. Sounds like is culture a big part of?
Well, we are. So we're learning that as we go as well. So let's, we don't have it right, and we'll always do. We've had great support through some of the local support. For example, we were through Scottish Enterprise on the High Growth Ventures team on there, and they were fantastic. Really helping us find our feet and sort of build the confidence within the team. We've had some great companies and individuals to sort of support us in our early stages through sort of investments. And then back to the culture, you work with a great bunch of people, they'll define the culture with you as well. It's not about this is how we do it, they'll bring to there, but ultimately you can't have that utopian it doesn't feel like work. I don't think that's a plausible thing to sort of say sometimes. But what I can say is you don't wake up in sort of that discomfort, I've got to go to work. It's a great place to be. I work with great people, and we have a very open relationship amongst us. And I'm very open, sometimes potentially too open, but I think that's a healthy way to be, to make everyone understand where we're coming along the journey, the challenges we have, as well as the good parts. And then we all probably put a bit more in than we need to sometimes because we're quite passionate about what we do. And then that doesn't want to be the norm. So we try and then work with individuals and the team. What can we do to make it a better place? And so always reviewing that. Don't want to follow trends of this is a fashionable thing to do. Want to generally listen to people, find out what's important to them, and help sure that we can develop that and then deliver that fits with the business growth plans that we have, but also the personal ambitions that people have out with work and what they have in commitments. And so to get that balance, I also recognize the work-life balance is completely shifting in time as we've gone on. We all work from home a lot more, but also work is changing its role within individuals' lives as well. Before it used to be a 9 to 5 and we'll go do our own things, but work is becoming much more blended within what we're doing. And so we have to adapt and adjust for that and make sure that we Obviously, make sure the business grows, but if you want a long-term business, you've got to follow that through and take everything through with the individuals that are working with you, and not just this is what we do and you've got to follow it. It's about listening to them and adjusting and developing to fit all parties, which makes it actually quite difficult to do sometimes. Not appeasing everyone, but trying to get the balance that fits with everyone that's there.
Yeah, fantastic, great. I wish more businesses had the same attitude to building their team as you do.
Well,
yeah.
I really stress that we're not trying to be unusual. I think we want to grow and be, let's be honest, deal with ourselves. We want to grow and be as successful as we are in our industry. That does not change or quiver. It doesn't mean that that's going to be diminished, but you can do it in different ways. And I think we're learning that, and we have to adjust for that. So, if we still learn from multiple companies and people that are doing that and try and adapt it to fit with us. And so don't see us as being spearheading anything, but we just listen. And I think that's the point that which we're taking forward.
So, did you always want to be a business owner?
No, I think I landed myself by accident into a great industry, through my career, and I'm a surveyor by my career, and I've worked with some fantastic people in that career. When I came up and moved up to Aberdeen with my wife 20 years ago, and even before that in the survey industry, I worked with such great, talented people in that industry that I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every part of it. I've been lucky enough to travel and work with really talented people. I think sometimes we're held back within careers and companies just purely for the size of it and what it's trying to do, and I think it doesn't sometimes extract the best out of people. So I always knew there was maybe something different, but I didn't know what different was. So I didn't know on there, but I have a passion about GPS and positioning, what we do. I knew that through some of the points that we had, that it's something I just enjoy being involved in. And that spawned into working with my fellow business partner, and he shares the same passions as I do in a different way. And as a result of that, it was that sort of why not? I had I'd say an opportunity. Some people might say it's not. When I was through one of the companies I worked with and part of a redundancy phase on there, which then gave us a window. I sat down with my wife and we said, well, look, with a young family, how long should we try and start a business? Give ourselves to do that. Always takes longer than you think. So we had to go through that. I'm pleased that we would run through those lean periods to just give ourselves the chance to even be at the door. And I think that's where we are today. We've given ourselves the chance. We're at the door. We've got, for the northeast of Scotland, who work, with large companies all the time, but for such a small company that we are, we've got two global players as now investors into the company. These are stock listed companies that have invested into us, and our partners as well. And then we've got the lengthy contracts with Oceaneering and others. And we just feel very grateful that we've managed to get where we are.
Oh, yeah, well done. You've done really well. What have been the biggest learnings you've had through the since you started the business?
Well, I wouldn't say I went through it blindly, but time always takes longer, and it's always that, because first year sort of finding our feet, what were we going to do? Then we sort of started engaging with industrial partners. That took longer. Had no idea what it was to raise capital business and what guises that could be. And so learned through that, had again great support through that from some mentors and sort of business partners along the way. So that was a real learning curve because sorry.
No, on you go.
Well, I was involved in the an accelerator course through Business Gateway up here, and it was that sort of, they just started discussing what investment is, and where I found that was difficult. They were great because I met loads of people through that, but what was difficult was how easy it was made to see to get investment. It's not. It's the hardest thing you can do. You've got to sell your idea. You've got to engage with people who are looking to invest. You've got to pull them through the journey, and you've got to give them such a self-belief in such a belief in what's happening, to just get there. And then that's not even taken into account the sort of legalities, the due diligence and everything else. And that's just to get you moving. Then you move into sort of working with larger corporates. So the two companies working with and what that looks like, and just learning what that, what's about. So, and then at the same time, whilst that's all ongoing, growing the business and delivering the business. So that makeup and that understanding was new to me. But again, having a great team as you're building, helping deliver the bits that we're doing to keep the sort of trajectory we were doing was very hard to balance on that. And then it's about my journey going forward. My journey is changing. You could say you're a business leader, which I'm not comfortable with that phase. I'm just part of the jigsaw puzzle. But where do I sit in that jigsaw puzzle as the company grows? Because I've got much better people to run elements of the business than I am. So they're doing it. So I'm taking this step away from elements of the business to allow concentration of looking ahead, to allow us to continue to grow. And it's not just for growth's sake, it's to keep on top of new technologies, to keep on top of new markets, to keep on top of all this sort of elements on there. So my role is now changing. So I have to adapt for that. And making sure I have the right skill sets to make sure that I'm enhancing the company going forward. So that's my personal growth. And then making sure the team have the right skills to grow the elements that they're doing as well. So it's multiple faceted, really, and it's sort of the whack-a-mole. You hit one, you get one right, and then something else comes up, and then you hit something else, and something else comes up.
So in that personal development, in your personal development, who's been the biggest support for you?
I think I wouldn't say there's the biggest. There's been a multiple on there. So started off with the accelerator up here in Aberdeen, which just gave me the insight of what there could be. Now, I felt at the time it wasn't the right time I was spending because it was 12 weeks. And it was quite intensive. And I knew a lot of the stuff I was doing there. I've come from a commercial background. It wasn't necessarily there, but it taught me then contacts were important, that just could help direct you. So that was one stepping stone. Getting onto the sort of high growth ventures was amazing. There was a particular woman who ran that. It was a ball of energy, and she was fantastic for us, on that. And that just allowed me to understand what setting up a board's like, and the governing side of it, and all those sort of legalities to look at, and as well as the structure of a team. So that was good. I took a step away from entering anything else while we went through that program to concentrate on growing the business. And there were some individuals that sort of helped, but because the business evolves, and so individuals change as the business evolves, and I've learned that as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be fixed. And I was uncomfortable with that to start with, and becoming more comfortable with it, that there's different people with different skill sets who come in and out of the business as the business grows. And I include myself with that. There may be a time when someone else is in a better position to run the business than me going forward if the business hits a phase. And I've got to be accepting of that, even though we started it, that's just the nature and flow of a business. So learning that side of it as well. That's
a really good reflection, isn't it? Yes, that
not easy. I'm not saying it's, but it's understanding that on there. And at the minute, I've got a great relationship with our investing companies, because they're strategic companies. They want us to grow. They're not looking to sell the company. That's not, so I'm on there with that. But they're mindful of how far I can take it when I'm the right person. But that's why I'm building a team behind me who's running the business, who they're effectively running it and allow me to look ahead. So I've identified that. Not easy, but that for not just for personal egotistical reasons, because it takes time. You don't want to adapt people to think like you to how to grow the business. You want them to grow and think like they think the business is going to hit the targets that we're setting together. And that's very difficult to sometimes get the right balance.
And yet that brings us back to the team building part, doesn't it? About having different people with the right mindset and the right skills and the right, and a diverse team, I guess.
I mean, I recognise our team doesn't have all the right skills in place today. So, but I have the right team to grow and get the right skill sets within the place, if that makes sense, because they've been committed to what they're doing, and it's not being blindly sticking with the same team for the sake of the same team because they come in. I recognize that could also be detrimental, but I have the talent within that team and to grow. Now it's up to me then to make sure that they have the right tools in place to do that. And so I have to look for maybe external help to help them grow. But that's how I'd rather grow the business organically than just, bring in people and grow it, because we're not here for 5 minutes to sell for a quick sell. That's not the premise of the business. We're here to grow the business and deliver. We've got lengthy contracts to deliver against, but also personal goals that we want to grow and have a sustainable business. And that comes back to, we love the technology we're doing, but also make it very important that we're growing it here in the northeast of Scotland. That's not necessarily just tied to a cyclic industry such as the oil and gas. We're now expanding into other industries that will allow it to sort of manage those sort of cyclic events that we see.
So what's the long term? But let's say 5 years. What are the goals for 5 years? I mean, it sounds to me that you've got it could be a global business at some point.
Well, it is, because we've got between now and mid 2025, we have to change out all the our partner Oceaneering's existing customer base to ours, and then also transition on that. So that's an immediate goal. There's a massive program ongoing today to do that. It doesn't happen very often in our industry to do that. We're changing out all their current services to ours and then all the new ones. So that's the immediacy that's coming at us today. Within 5 years, we want to be delivering it into land applications as well. So the marine industry is already global. We're delivering our service to the Gulf of Mexico, to Japan, to around Europe, in elements of Africa. We're doing that now. Then the land applications will be agriculture globally on there, and then mining, construction, those elements that need it. Because of our partnerships, that will allow that to happen. And then I need to start looking ahead of what else we can do. But I've got to be mindful of trying to run before you walk. So we've got to concentrate on what we have to do today, putting in the stepping blocks to allow that to happen. And we may have to adapt, what new technologies come in, as there's obviously new challenges to come in. I'm always looking ahead of new GNSS services coming in. So how does that affect the direction we're going?
It's an exciting time. I'm going to be watching carefully the growth of the business. It sounds fantastic. I could talk to you all day, Kevin, and we're running out of time. So I guess I can just say thank you very much for joining me. And you never know, we should do another one of these in a year or so and see where things have moved on.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, thanks for inviting us. It's great for that. Always happy to sort of give updates. I think for us, if we give updates on sort of positive natures, I think we have a great infrastructure here in the northeast of Scotland. It shouldn't be forgotten. Banging the drum for what businesses can do here, and deliver a global service from here. Always happy to help on that.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Business Spotlight today.
No, thank you. Thank you, Brenda.